Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Writers on Writing. I'm your host, Dr. Brenda Greene, and Writers on Writing comes to you from Medgar Evers College. We provide the audience with an opportunity to hear writers from the African diaspora talk about their work, their life, and their craft. And I am founder and executive director of the Center for Black Literature, director of the National Black Writers Conference, and professor of English here at Medgar Evers College. I am so pleased to have with me in virtual space today, Zola Rivers. Welcome, Voza.
I'm glad to be a part of this conversation today with you, your listeners and viewers.
I appreciate you taking the time. And we are so pleased. We just awarded you with the Ozzie Davis Award at our National Black Writers Conference, Activism, Identity, and Race, Black Playwrights and Screenwriters at the Crossroads. And Ozzie Davis represents a producer, a filmmaker, director, but also an institution builder as you are. But you have been doing this for so many years. And again, I commend you for that.
Thank you.
I just want to share with our audience some background information about you. Zola Rivers is an award-winning international producer, co-producer of theater, film, and live events. He is chairman and co-founder of the Harlem Arts Alliance, an arts service membership organization with 350 members. He is the executive producer and founding member of the New Heritage Theater Group, which was established in 1964, and executive producer and co-founder of the Impact Repertory Theater, the Oscar and Grammy-nominated Youth and Music Division of the New Heritage Group. He also serves as the first vice president of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce and the co-founder, vice chairman, and executive producer of Harlem Week, which is a one-day tribute to Harlem that has evolved over 45 years to becoming a month-long celebration. The Grammy-nominated Rivers has served as executive vice president and chief operating officer of Apollo Records, president of PRG Records, president and chief executive of Voza River Entertainment Group, and president of Greenlight Films, a Black-owned film company. And then as a filmmaker, he's produced more than 50 documentaries, including Langston Hughes, Hughes's Dream Harlem, Percy Sutton, A Man for All Seasons, The Savoy King, Chick Webb and the Music That Changed America, and Sonia Sanchez, Shake Loose Memories. I cannot just name all of the work you've done. And I have to say, what is your secret? How have you been able to keep up the energy to do this all of these years?
Surround myself with good, positive people who bring off positive energy and just motivate me to continue to do what I do. There's no secret. It's just being with good people and a lot of good ideas and connections just flow my way, and I just find a way to do it. So it starts with your heartbeat.
Okay, so you obviously have that passion. You are definitely living the purpose-driven life.
Yes.
But it's really interesting how you've combined all aspects of the arts. You're really interdisciplinary as a film producer, as a event person, as as a theatrical producer. You've done so many things. So what is it? What is you talked about it's your heart, but what is your worldview, your philosophy around the arts and Black arts? What is it that really motivates you? Because you're not just doing this for the arts, you have a specific message and purpose that you're focusing on.
Well, for me, it really has to start from a very early age. When I think about my grandparents coming from Jamaica as immigrants and moving into Harlem, and I was raised by my grandparents, my sister and I, and living on 132nd Street and understanding that at 135th Street it's now called the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, but back then it was the 135th Street Library. And going to school just 3 blocks from the Schomburg meant that I was living in the center, the epicenter of Black literature and culture, and not knowing all of the manifestations of what that meant as a very young kid. But as I got older, and was in junior high school, and the name of the school was Frederick Douglass Junior High School.
Yes.
And one day a week, the teacher took us to the Schomburg, it's now called the Schomburg, to do a history lesson, 1 hour every Friday, absorbing that kind of information, and then understanding that there was this enormous contribution in the early 1900s, 1910, 1920, of people coming from the Caribbean, from the cotton fields of the South, all coming up to this location where I now reside, called Harlem. Knowing all of that meant a lot to me personally, and understanding that 2 blocks from me, James Baldwin lived there, and I was very close with his sister. That that the junior high school that I went to, James Baldwin went there, Romeo Bearden went there, Jacob Lawrence, all of this kind of information just flowing through. So I feel that over the years, I've just developed this really love for this community, and understanding the foundation it was laid in the early 1900s, going into the first Renaissance, Harlem Renaissance, etc., just gave me a special place. And I always say my beloved Harlem.
Okay. So
And
when we
that's
look at, yeah, I'm sorry.
no, and that's really been my special place. Something happened in 1964. And then in 1964, just examining what was happening around the country, very much like civil unrest, civil rights movement, having great orators like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer. We could name all the names. The student lunch counter demonstrations. All of this was happening in the 60s. And in 1964, I felt that I needed to prepare myself to articulate what I was seeing.
That was a conscious decision, you're saying?
It was a conscious decision that I wanted to see how I could elevate my my vocabulary about what was happening. And I went and took a public speaking class at the local YMCA in Harlem. And on that very first day of the class, after the class was over, there was a guest speaker. And that guest speaker was Roger Furman. And Roger Furman talked about that library, that same library that I attended when I was a kid, that he and Ruby Dee and Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier and Gertrude Jeanette and so many others were in the basement of that library. And I said, oh my God, I just went there for the history, but look how important that institution, that public library was, that all of these people would be there and being a part of a theater company. That was my first introduction really into theater, was through that 1964 1-day, 2-hour moment that changed my life.
So this was actually before the rise, the emphasis on the Black arts movement and Black power movement.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you, growing up in Harlem, having parents who came from Jamaica, what impact, if any, did the Marcus Garvey movement have on you and your family?
Well, my grandfather was a Garveyite.
Okay.
And didn't preach it because we were young, but you knew that he was proud. He was proud Jamaican with the same tenets of Marcus Garvey, and that was and very disciplined, very motivated because he was a laborer. He didn't have any degrees when he came here. He was 17 years old, and but he had many skills. And I watched him and worked very closely with him, and I started developing this multiple capacity, just like he had before me. And he took care of the family and distilled discipline within the family structure. And I just inherited all of that.
So, as you think about, you had this turning point in 1964, and then you had, of course, the explosion of the Black theater movement, the Black arts movement, all of that feeding what you were doing. And so, as you really began to immerse yourself in this, what did you see as your responsibility as a Black producer and artist in general? And just to follow up, what is the responsibility do you see of the Black artists in general, or does the Black artist have?
Well, Brenda, first of all, I was none of that. I knew nothing about theater. So in 1964, that special moment was a turning point for me because I met someone who invited me to the table of what he was creating, which is his own theater company based on the American Negro Theater model that when he was my age, he was a member of. And so with that, and me not being not interested in theater as any kind of creative force, I just said to him, I'm not interested in being an actor, director, any of that stuff. But what I will do, I want to volunteer and give you my services. And, I'm good in accounting. I can help you if you need help there. And that's what I did. Non-paid volunteer for 6 years. And through that experience, I got a chance, first of all, to meet some of those pioneer artists that we all love, from Harry Belafonte to Sidney Poitier, because they came to the theater to help Roger build his theater based on the model that they had gone through. And it was through that experience of just volunteering that Roger came to me after 6 years and said, listen, you've been a handyman, you've been a prop person, you know how now to focus lights, you know how to paint sets, you helped us build a theater physically, hand by hand. You should take care of the business of the theater, and I will concentrate on the overall artistic vision. And that opportunity for me gave me another level of confidence because no one really knew me in theater because I didn't come out of there. Now you are in the Black Arts movement, and now you have all of these other theaters. We were 2 years ahead of Amiri Baraka coming in and setting up what he was doing. So because I didn't have the reputation or the experience, I would always be in the background. Roger Furman was the front man, and I was just his assistant.
You were making it happen. You were helping to make it happen.
Yes.
Yes, you were.
And when he died, the board of directors asked if I would step up and then take over leadership of the theater. And then I had an opportunity to really look at what my first 20 years was like with him, and made some decisions on, now that I'm in a position, how can I expand on the foundation that he laid down. And luckily for me, as fate would have it, a young person from South Africa, with one of the actors and producers of our theater, Phyllis Stickney, brought with her a man named Duma Nglubu from South Africa, who worked very closely with Stephen Biko. And when Stephen Biko was murdered in South Africa, Duma left the country, came here and enrolled in Hunter College, but he came with a wealth of information around how arts and culture warriors were fighting apartheid with art and culture and theater and music, and that Hugh Masekela and Marion McCabe were just examples of hundreds of others who were lending their voices to fight apartheid, not with weapons, but with art and culture.
Very important concept. You know, I want to make sure that we get in so much. There's so much you have to offer. Can you just focus? Can we just fast forward a little bit as to what have been the highlights for you in your career?
Well, first and foremost, I think that meeting was pivotal for me to have a young student change the course of my direction. And I said, I had that aha moment that I've just gone through 20 years at one level, and this opportunity that I'm experiencing by getting new information will give me an opportunity to expand the vision. And it was South Africa being able to understand the connection between South Africa, apartheid, and our civil rights movement, and how the freedom fighters, the songwriters during the civil rights movement was also replicated in South Africa. And then from that moment on, that became a changing moment for me because I produced my first South African play that led to a lot of attention in Harlem. And then that led to the second play, and it led to a Broadway production of the second play. It led to the third play, another Broadway production. And it started moving around the country, but everything was emanating from a small 99 to a 100-seat theater in Harlem.
So now you are really producing many films and events and music. So what are some of the other highlights? You've worked with so many artists. You know, I just can't. Nancy Wilson, Nina Simone, Luther Vandross, James Brown, the Count Basie Orchestra, Ray Charles. How did you get into all of that?
Well, let me just give you a special story about Nina Simone. Nina Simone was banned from the United States in the early 80s for tax reasons, and she fled to Europe and lived in Europe. The same person from South Africa was a student at Hunter College. And he told me, he says, Voza, they're going to lift the indictment on taxes of Nina Simone, and wouldn't it be great if we could bring Nina Simone to Hunter College as a new heritage production? I said, wow, you really think that that's a good idea? He says, I could speak to the people at the college, but would you produce it? I said, sure, we'll just do it together. And we produced Nina Simone's first concert after she was allowed to come back into the United States to perform. That is the kind of special moments that happen. And when you talk about film, one of my other partners was a guy who I'm still close to. He'll be 90 this year. His name is Clarence Jones. Clarence Jones is an attorney. He was Martin Luther King's attorney and speechwriter. And he and I sat down and said, you know, we want to make movies, but there's no one that looked like us in Hollywood who can greenlight a film. So with he, myself, and Jamal Joseph, my other partner, we decided to create our own film company called Greenlight Films, because there was no one in Hollywood who could do that when we wanted to. And we wanted to be above the line. We want to be talent. We wanted to be in a position to invest and find investors. So that led to us getting the rights to the Bob Marley story that was laced with a lot of challenges based on all of the wives that Bob Marley had and all the children that he had. But yes, it was a really good initiative for us. And so for a number of years, we operated a film company, and that led to Jamal and I are creating another film company within the theater, which is New Heritage Films and the Harlem Film Festival. And we've been doing that for a number of years. Jamal, former Black Panther, as you remember, he was part of the Panther 21, did 9 years in Leavenworth, came out of prison armed with scripts and armed with a sense of purpose. And meeting with Jamal introducing me to Kathleen Cleaver and Afeni Shakur and Tupac Shakur, all through Jamal and his work with the Panthers. So with that, we decided that we would create our own film company in the theater, and that we would work with Afeni Shakur. We would work with the guy Clarence Jones and produce things small. We produced the very first activity we did was to create the Black Panther Film Festival. So that was one of the things that we sat in our office and mapped out with Kathleen Cleaver. It was a great day for us to be able to do that. And then
you have to put all of this in a book, or someone has to do the book for you, because we are almost out of time. And I want you to we could really need an hour for this. Okay. I want you to give us what your message is for young people and what you see going forth with respect to Black theater, Black film, and Black art.
It's really very important that people like myself spend time with young people and we become the message that we bring. And through the vision of Jamal and I, he being an incarcerated person at the age of 15.
Was he 15 when that happened?
Yes, he lied about his age. Okay. And they thought he was 19. He was 15 when he joined the Panthers. And coming out of the philosophy of the free breakfast program and medical attention, and me doing what I did with the bringing in these young children from South Africa, we decided that working with young people and sharing and demystifying how we got into the positions that we were in was so important. And we created a youth component. And that's where we put a lot of our energy and a lot of our know-how by sharing with young people. And fortunately for us, Harry Belafonte joined with us and started having meetings with our young people and talking about the civil rights, talking about We Are the World, and all of the artists and the power that they had to make a change, not locally, globally, but internationally, everywhere. And so those are the kinds of things that we preach to our young people, that it's on us to be able to move forward, and that having an opportunity to meet with people like myself should be a communication that more people in my position should extend to young people.
Okay, well, I want to thank you. You have such a wonderful story. As you talked at the National Black Writers Conference, I was really impressed by your story and by your unwavering commitment to self-determination. I am not going to go out and ask anyone for anything, you said. If we want to do it, we have to do it ourselves. We have to be committed to building our own institutions and taking care of ourselves and not asking for others. If we wanted to make it happen, it's on us. And I think that's a powerful message that you have too. And you've done that.
Yes.
You've done that.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we look forward to watching you do your work. And you have, I know you have some other programs coming up. You're celebrating Phyllis Hyman and then Helen LaFrance. There's always something in film, in theater and music. So continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Writers on Writing with your host, Dr. Brenda Greene, and we have been talking with Zola Rivers, documentarian, filmmaker, theater producer, event maker, television project director, or film projects. You have it all. The Renaissance Man in Harlem, the Harlem
Thank you.
Renaissance Man. Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Bye.